With all the furniture projects I've been working on lately, I've been missing my large assembly table. So I took a day off, went down to the big box store and bought some dimensional lumber and some plywood and built this easy to make assembly table. So I want the biggest assembly table I can fit in my shop, and after taking some measurements, for me that was 42 inches by 70 inches. And I want to put this together quickly, so I'm just using really basic framing. Everything is butt jointed and lagged together with power head screws. Even the corner posts are just going to be set in place, glued, and then I'm going to use some large power head screws to screw them into the aprons. Now the top is all going to be glued together. The shelf is not, because eventually I want to take the shelf out and put in some drawers and other ideas I have down the road. So after cutting everything to length, I milled it down to its rough width. Now whenever I'm buying dimensional lumber like this, I always buy, for instance, if I want two 2x4s, I'll buy a 2x8 because it's sturdier material and you're more likely to find something straight, and ultimately it's cheaper. With the rough milling done, I'd used 8 pieces and glued them up to make the legs, and when the glue had dried, took them over to the surface planer to clean them up. With the legs done, I started working on the frame. Now I'm using my flush cut countersink to create a counter bore that it matches the same diameter as the head of the power head screws that I'm using, and that just offers it a really nice finished look. Now after doing the first one and realizing that holding it by hand wasn't good enough because the two pieces weren't quite flush with each other, I went back and clamped it and then clamped everything else from there on out. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time fussing with getting it square because when I put it on my plywood, I can actually use the plywood to square up this frame, and that's what I did. Now after that was done, I went and attached the legs using the flush cut countersink again, and then I'm pre-drilling these so the threads of the power head screw don't actually engage in the leg itself. That way it'll really suck these legs up tight to the apron. Now the last thing I need to do on the top of the bench is put the end apron in place. Now I waited until the legs were in place so I could get a really nice snug fit. So I set the apron in place, marked it out, and then went over to the chop saw and cut it to length. And then I glued everything in place, clamped it down, and then lagged it in from the end and put some screws up from the top into the apron itself to hold the plywood in place. And once that was done, I flipped the bench over and built the shelf that was going to go below this, and it's basically just a rinse and repeat of the top. Before I installed the shelf on the workbench, I used a flush trim bit in my router and a sander to sand over the edges and just clean everything up a little bit. And my son was nice enough to come out to the shop and help me. He screwed some braces onto the legs that the shelf would sit on while we lagged it in place. After we set it in place, we came back and with some power head screws, lagged everything in the position it would be. And now again, I didn't add any glue to the shelf because I'm going to want to modify this in the future and add some more storage and some different things to it. With the shelf in place, we took the braces off and then started loading it up. It's really nice to have all that extra storage. It only took a few minutes for my son and I to completely fill up that shelf with stuff that had just been tucked around the shop, and it's nice to have it up. And we instantly put it to use on a father-son build that we're doing on a Shapeoko 3. I'd like to thank FastCap and Bosch for sponsoring today's video, and if you'd like to learn more about the products I used in today's video, check the description box below. Also, I have a free set of drawings for this bench on my website, along with several other free sets of plans, so don't forget to check that out. Again, I'll put links in the description box below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.